Welcome to another episode of Jets Afterburners. Your host right here, New York Jets Fan 16, and we are just super proud. We're blown away to get the great Joe Blewett from Jets X Factor. No one breaks down film like this dude right here. Joe, thank you so much for coming on to the show, man.
I appreciate it. I don't know about blown away, Dan, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it nonetheless. Definitely thank you for having me.
100%, dude. Now, let's get into it because, I reached out to you right before the draft, and I'm like right in the thick of things, and it's all about the Bauer boys or offensive line, or we have to get a weapon, whatnot. And we'll get to the schedule release that was yesterday. But what did you think about the draft? Was it something that, all right, you know what? Joe Douglas did the right move?
Yeah, I was team weapon, just to raise the ceiling of the team, just because, you talk about whether it be Fashanu or Fatanu or any one of these guys. I felt like initially that, hey, you can just sign a David Bakhtiari, you can sign a Donovan Smith, and what is the drop off between year one rookie and Donovan Smith? Maybe not as great as some people think it was. So I was team weapon, but obviously as the draft unfolded, the top three weapons went in terms of the top three receivers with Neighbors, Odunze, and Marvin Harrison. So you're sitting there like, okay, what are they going to do now? Because at that point, like there's a tier break for me. It was one of those three guys. I had Latham actually as my OT1. He went OT2. And then Alt was my OT2 and he went as OT1. So, okay, my top five guys for the Jets are off the board. What are you going to do? And that's kind of my tier break where like at this point with Bowers and Fashanu being my next two players on my big board, I said I would have liked them in a trade down. Now, obviously the Jets only traded down one spot because apparently they liked Fashanu more than the guys like Fatanu and Fuaga. So they didn't want to trade down so far where they're going to lose Fashanu. So they picked up an extra 5th and 6th round pick, or I think it's actually maybe a 4th and a 5th round pick, but they pick up 2 extra picks for it. I think it's a good trade down. Obviously you still get your guy. And again, I was in the camp of like, hey, it's either Bowers or Fashanu. Overall, on my actual big board, I had Bowers over Fashanu. But dude, like you said, like the Twitter stuff, I did not want to argue about Bowers for the next 10 years. So with all that stuff going on, I was just like, let's just get Fashanu. And then at that point, what do you do to pivot? Because my thing is like you need another receiver. Because at that point you have Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, but Lazard is your 3. Like Lazard is not enough in my mind as an ideal number 3. So what do you do at receiver? Obviously they pivot and they trade up in the 3rd round to get Corley. So I like the pick. Again, the draft did not go exactly how I wanted it to go in terms of those 5 guys going before the Jets pick. But considering the fact that you're able to trade down, get that 4th and the 5th, and still grab a tackle who, in my opinion, is the best pass blocking tackle in the draft, and going into an absolutely elite situation in terms of like learning from an all-pro and Tyron Smith and another good vet in Morgan Moses. I think it's a move that really raises the floor of this team. And hey, if you do have an injury at one of these tackle spots, now it's not, the guys that we've had in the past, the Wayne Hunters and, the Breno Giacomini's and last year, 2 years ago who was the guy who went to New England, the McDermott. McDermott was on the team, Max Mitchell, like all these guys have not been great for the Jets. So now you go from Tyron Smith to, a 1st round rookie. So I like the pick based on how the board fell. Unfortunately, it just didn't fall great for the Jets.
But that's the thing, right? Like we're looking at now the schedule and how I have this all set up is that we're going to be going back and forth. Draft schedule. We have the first game of the season with the Niners. Offensively, because defensively, in my opinion, we stack up well. Obviously, we have for the past 3 seasons, if we average it out, it's top 5, top 4 defense against, again, all-star team there on offense. Yes, I get it. Brock Purdy was a 7th rounder, this and that, whatever. He brought the San Francisco 49ers all the way to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to knock that dude at all.
Mm-hmm.
So now, how do you like punch for punch on offense? I think that's where Malachi Corley comes into play. He's an X factor, if you think about it, right? His ceiling is the guy that he's going to be playing against on the other side, who's going to be, sitting down when Malachi's on the field, and that's Deebo Samuels. But his floor, his kind of floor is, in my opinion, is probably Randall Cobb. And that's a good thing, given how Aaron Rodgers used Cobb in Green Bay. How do you see that working out?
Yeah. I Cobb as a floor, like Cobb is a pretty elite floor. If that is the case, Cobb was, pretty. I don't know if he's like exactly a 1,000 yard guy, but pretty consistent. I think he's an X factor. I think when you look at the Jets and how they're going to run their offense in correlation with the routes that Malachi Corley was successful with, it fits. Like, he was successful at overs and drags. He's going to run that in this offense. He was successful in the flat and yak routes. He's gonna get plenty of yak opportunities just from Rodgers pre-snap. Hey, these safeties are 20 yards off you. Let's get you an easy 6 yards on first down. That's definitely gonna be a part of the offense. Orbit motions, jet sweeps, all that type of stuff. And then another area that I thought was a little bit underrated for him was his vertical game. I do think he has some good acceleration. He has some good top end speed. He sets up guys pretty well deep. There's some wasted movements. There's some things he needs to do better. His ball tracking is inconsistent. His contested catching is inconsistent. But for a guy who he's just like, he's just a yak guy, he's just a running back, it's like, okay, well, I saw this running back running some good vertical routes and contested and bringing in some contested balls. Now, it wasn't consistent. He's not Romo contested catches, but he at least had the capability to. You at least saw it there. So I think in year one, you're going to keep it pretty simple for him. Again, free releases, overs, drags, yak opportunities, and then clear out the defense and run some verticals. So I think they'll keep it simple, and then he'll slowly build up his role to be more of a well-rounded receiver. How does he get off of press at the next level? That's a question. Can he run square cuts? Can he run a 15-yard out? How is his intermediate game? Like, there's some things that he definitely needs to improve on. But I like adding him to the offense because I think we're missing that. I know, people like Xavier Gibson, but really, like, what did Xavier Gibson prove last year? Minus one play. Like, it was a good play.
Yes.
But past that, I think he muffed the ball that game. He muffed the ball versus the Eagles. He muffed the ball versus the Chiefs. Then there was another 2 fumbles I forget that he had. Right. And in terms of like yak opportunities and stuff, he wasn't anything to write home about. So you're replacing him in your offense. I don't think that role was truly filled in this offense in terms of a yak guy. So Corley fills it well. So you have Garrett Wilson's all around guy. You have Mike Williams, who's the vertical guy, back shoulder ball guy, which Aaron Rodgers is elite at. That's elite back shoulder ball guy. And you got Mike Williams, a top 5 contested catcher, and then he needs a yak guy, and you get Corley, perfect yak guy. So I really like the pick. I do think he might take a little bit longer to adjust than some people realize, just because of how raw he is coming from the school he came from. But I think Corley could be a stud.
See, now when we look at the next 10 games after the Niners, right, we have Tennessee, the Pats, the Broncos. Then we go to London for the Vikings, Buffalo, which is always tough, even though we have them here at home, Monday night game. Then we have to travel to Pittsburgh, New England again. Now, what's our identity? Like, what is it? We drafted 2 guys. We drafted Braylon Allen, who I'm very high on. I look at him and I see just a shorter Brandon Jacobs, but he has that kind of stock in him. And then they go and they draft Isaiah Davis, and you're scratching your head. You're like, wasn't there better options out there? But then now I'm thinking, is that our John Kuntz? Is that our fullback kind of, all right, he's going to be opening up gaping holes for like Hall and Braylon Allen to get the majority of pressure off of Aaron Rodgers? Or is it just, we have the weapons, we're doing everything right here and then?
I think it's the latter. My review's gonna come out on him, relatively soon. He's not a fullback. I know people say that, and I think it's just a thing where people type in PFF and he's aligned at fullback this many times, so now he's a fullback. He cannot block. He cannot lead block at the NFL level. That's not going to happen. But with Isaiah Davis, like, it's a thing where, hey, it's a 5th round pick. Like, if we, and this is kind of how I phrase it to people. Like, let's say we went into the draft with 3 running backs. Let's just live in an alternate universe where we have, Breece Hall. Let's say Michael Carter was still on the team and we had Izzy. If we went into the 5th round in that draft with those 3 guys and we drafted a 5th round running back, are we going to lose our minds? Is it just because we drafted 2 in the same draft that, like, now it's so crazy? Like, you have 7 picks. running backs historically are a position that work out more than any other later on in the draft. So if you just drafted one and Isaiah Davis is your next guy on the board, hey, teams carry 4 running backs, especially you're talking about identity with this Jets team. I think they're going to be, look at the additions they brought in this offseason. Like, it's going to be a ground and pound type of offense. Just drive it down teams' throats, keep our offense on the field and just, nickel and dime people, ground it, and with that being said, you have a offensive line and scheme change most likely coming. Like, a lot of people hinted towards it that, hey, like with these additions, with John Simpson, with Morgan Moses, it's more likely that they're going to go to power or counter, gap system. And Izzy's not the best fit for that. So they brought in 2 running backs. And hey, listen, if Izzy doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. If he works out and he's the 4th running back, great. But like, I'm not going to, I think a lot of Jets fans like lost their mind about a 5th round running back, but I really don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. Like, if he's our running back 3 and he gets 300 yards a year for a 5th round pick, that's a hit. Like, 5th round picks are probably hit at 15%. So even if he's just a rosterable player who's a solid running back 3, then it's fine. Like, I'm not gonna lose it about it. And in terms of like the mindset, like I do think they're going to transition into more ground and pound. And I kind of didn't really talk about the Niners game and stuff like that. The only thing I'm worried about with the Niners game that first week is obviously, listen, like at the end of the day, the Jets still have to gel, right? New offensive line, new quarterback with new receivers for the most part. Like, yeah, he was with Garrett, but they didn't play in the game. So I'm a little bit concerned with the newness of the offense. It's not a thing where like, hey, I'm afraid to play the 49ers or anything like that, but newness of the offense, team has to get used to each other. And the Jets, if they're going to struggle anywhere on defense this year, it's on the interior defensive line and teams running against us. And the Niners run the ball pretty damn well. So that's the concern with that game. I think they can win it though. Like, if they can beat the Buffalo Bills with Zach Wilson last year, they could beat the Niners with Aaron Rodgers and a better team, and actually a much better team. I think that's in my opinion and everybody else's opinion as compared to last year. So just to transition back to that, but then going back to the identity, I think it's a ground and pound thing. And hey, if you draft 2 running backs, it's 2 running backs. If they had 3 and they drafted 1 running back, are going to lose it? Probably not. So it is what it is. And I like Davis too, but he's definitely not a running back, or he's definitely not a fullback.
You see, with Izzy, I look at him and he reminds me so much of Bilal Powell's first year. That first year when Bilal played against, I believe it was at Mile High. I believe it was 3rd and 1 at the goal line, and he fumbled the ball. And everyone's like, oh, what a bust. But if people did their due diligence on him, he was a freak out in Louisville.
Yeah.
The following year, that offseason, he bulked up and his mindset completely changed. And I think that was the offseason where we started getting like Chris Ivory and, that running back group became very competitive. I see Izzy coming into this one very low under the radar. And he's going to turn a lot of heads this season. I just have that kind of inkling where history, sometimes it does repeat itself. And I think he's going to be an excellent 3rd down back this season. What do you think?
Yeah, he's got to learn how to pass protect to be an excellent 3rd down back, because that's one of his weaknesses. So if you're going to be trusted to be in passing downs, you have to learn how to pass block. So that's a big question with him. But the thing about Izzy is it's like he's a 5th round pick. So if he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. Again, I'm not going to lose it about it. But with that all being said, kind of like you said, not every guy's progression is linear, right? Like, some guys are great in year 1, sometimes guys are great in year 4. Like, it's different for different guys. And now we're transitioning schemes, so maybe it takes him a little bit to adjust, but he does have that home run threat ability. And again, like, you don't like last year, it's like people are down on Izzy right now, but what did he have to prove last year in terms of the offensive line he was running behind? You're running behind like Isaiah Newman or whatever his name was and a bunch of backups. So I'm not saying he proved anything, but I'm also saying that he didn't prove nothing either. Like, there's a lot of gray area with Izzy because he didn't have good opportunities to run the ball. So when you get the ball and you're a 5th round running back or a 4th round running back, I think a 5th round running back from Pitt, and there's 4 guys in your face 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, like, what do you expect to do? Right. So Braylon Allen would have struggled in that situation last year. Isaiah Davis would have struggled in that situation last year. The only reason it looked better when Breece Hall came back was because he's a savage. Like, Breece runs like that because he's a savage. Like, guys can't do that. So I wouldn't be so down on Izzy. It's a gray area with him. Again, I could see him not making the team. I could see him coming in and contributing. It's just about seeing what happens on the field.
Now, as we seesaw back and forth, this is an excellent comment here, right, with Sean Bennett. saying that 3-game in the first 15 games is brutal. Yes, I get it. And, we'll get that, right? San Francisco, then the Titans, and then we got the home opener, which to me was the biggest BS on a Thursday night, that home opener. Again, that's a complete slap in the face, but it is what it is. Because if you look at these teams, besides the Niners, these are favorable matchups for the Jets. And it goes with the Titans, the Pats, the Broncos, and then another rookie quarterback at in England before we actually face another true test with Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Those are games that, okay, you know what? Robert Saleh, you have to start kind of earning that paycheck as a head coach. What have you done lately? Now, at this point, you have to start winning these games. These are the games. You cannot drop an L against the Denver Broncos, who have the absolute worst quarterback group since I think before the Jets traded for Brett Favre, where we had Brett Ratliff, Kellen Clemens, and I don't know, some receptionist over there at Walmart or whatnot. It was horrible. But these are the games. Win them. I don't care if it's 3 days apart. It doesn't matter. Win these games. This is it. This is all in year. Right now, this is it. That window right now, this is it. If we don't seize this opportunity right now in the first 6-7 games, I don't know when we're going to have this opportunity once again.
I'm with you, man. Like when is it going to happen? If it's not this year, when? Like, I think we have and again, obviously injuries happen, stuff like that. But right now, I think we're top 5 in terms of easiest schedules in the NFL. So prove it, man. And I like Saleh as a person. I do, but as a coach, in a lot of big opportunities, the team comes out flat, man. Like they do. Miami Black Friday last year, Seahawks 2 years ago, the Browns game on Thursday night or whatever it was, in terms of like, hey, if you win that game, maybe Rodgers comes back, whatever it is. Like, his teams come out flat a lot. So I want Saleh to be less quotey Navy SEAL shit, like actually prove it, But with that being said, in terms of the first 15 games, like you said, it's not ideal, but if you're a true playoff contender, you don't lose to the Titans and Will Levis. You don't lose to the Patriots. You don't lose to the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. I'm with you. I don't like the 3 games. Starting on the road again, like, it's not a thing where I'm saying that they can't beat the 49ers. And I get that thinking, but realistically, in terms of their best opportunity to beat the Niners, do I think it would be better for them in week 9 or 10 than it would be in week 1? Yes, probably, just because they've been together for a while. The Jets have not. So you're going to come out maybe a little bit rusty. With that being said, maybe they start off bad and they lost to the Bears 2 years ago in their home opener, and like that mud ball. So you never know what can happen. But then after that, again, Titans, I wish that was Cardinals, because you're already out on the West Coast. Why not just stack those West Coast games and get them both off the jump? But I'm sure the NFL doesn't care so much. So you go to the Titans, again, a game you should win against Will Levis. They got some good receivers there, but it's a team that, again, if you're going to be a Super Bowl contender, you're beating the Titans. And after that, the Pats are terrible, dude. Like, who were their receivers? Right? I don't even know who they're like. I don't know who their number 1 is right now. Like, it's quite wild. So you win that game as well, and then, like you said, after that, maybe it's rookie quarterbacks, or maybe it's back-to-back of playing Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold. Again, games you absolutely unequivocally need to win. In that first 5 games, yeah, maybe there's a flub up and you're 3-2, and I'm sure you could recover, but you need to walk out of there 4-1. Either take that first game and then lose one of those games you're not supposed to, or you lose that first game, hopefully in a nail biter, and then you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Will Levis has nothing to write home about. Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, Zach Wilson, Brett Rippon, Bo Nix, whoever we're playing, we need to smack those teams in the mouth and walk out of those first 5 4-1.
And this is an enormous point here. And granted, as long as there's health to Aaron Rodgers and there's no issues there, I think this defense is going to have a different kind of element as well, especially at free safety. I think Quantez Stiggers is a big-time steal. He has a huge chip on his shoulder. And not only that, I don't know if Quandre Diggs fits into this equation after that whole cryptic kind of DJ Reed Twitter post that he sent yesterday, kind of like, we're in this together or something like that. Fine, perfect. But it's just my opinion. I think the identity is going to change a little bit. We're going to see a lot more blitzing, which will create more turnovers, thus more touchdowns on the defensive side. I think they have to tweak it. Just like every good offense, defenses adjust. Same thing happens with the defenses, especially when you're facing against an Andy Reid, they know how to adjust. All right, this team, they don't like blitzing. It's kind of simple. It's not just pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. Not every game is going to be against like a Jalen Hurts where it's just a hope and a prayer. All right, cool. You know what? He threw the interception. This is great. Perfect. And then bad things happen after that point. I think they have to change it up. And that's where, to me, this is an enormous year for Saleh.
Yeah, I think they'll change it up in certain ways. Obviously, what they've been doing has been working. They've been top 5 for about 2 years now. I think a large leap on defense comes from one. Yeah, they'll be able to be more multiple because hey, at the end of the day, this is their fourth year in the defense, right? Not your third, so you will be able to get more multiple. You saw them playing around a little bit with like Jermaine Johnson as like a stand-up 1 tech and 0 tech and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a new wrinkle. So I'm sure there's gonna be some new wrinkles into the Jets defense. But in terms of them improving, like it's just the fact, like, based on the offense. Man, like the offense puts so much less pressure on the defense, and we struggled in the ground game last year, but teams were able to run on us because the offense didn't score. Like if you were up 6-0 on the Jets, like hey, you probably won that game, because we could not score points last year. So you have a defense where the defensive line is like you put so much money into all these pass rushers from Q or capital, let's say money in capital, Q, JJ, all these guys, and they can't rush the passer because teams are just running the balls down their throats because they don't have any pressure from our offense to score. So considering the fact that you're going to have Rodgers this year and hopefully putting up, obviously I want like 100 points a game, but even just like 3 touchdowns worth of points for this defense is going to be like something they've never seen before. Like a lot of these games, they're working from, they have to win 13-10 or 9-6 or whatever it is. So I think the defense is going to be a lot more they're gonna have a lot more opportunities for picks, for blitzing, for getting to the quarterback, for that quarterback having to throw a ball into a tight window. Maybe he shouldn't because the Jets are up 10 in the third quarter because the offense is actually putting up points. So I think the defense will, and like maybe they give up a little bit more yards because they're a little bit more aggressive, whatever it is. But I think the defense is going to take its biggest leap in turnovers this year. Sacks and turnovers is exactly what you want, but the offense has to. It's a game where both sides of the ball rely on each other. If your offense is not doing anything, then the defense can't take off like that. But I'm expecting the offense to, knock on wood, take off this year, and the defense is going to take a massive jump just because of that.
Given that element, right, of having a competent quarterback in an offense that it goes through Aaron Rodgers, we all know what happens. God forbid the guy goes down. We have an incompetent offensive coordinator completely. That guy does not deserve to be in the NFL right now without Aaron Rodgers. And just the mere fact of what Connor Hughes wrote about is that the Jets tried to get someone else to have final say on play calls. That's, again, to me, that's very Jets-esque, but that's for us, right? Like as a Jet fan, we're like, oh man, this is like so typical. Who knows if that happens behind the scenes with any other NFL team and it doesn't even get to the media. Now, with this being said, let's say everything goes well and we do put up points 17-3, 21-7. Do you see a world where, we can sweep the East?
Is it possible? Like, undoubtedly, it's possible.
I say yes.
I would say it's possible. Would I bet on it? No, because I would take the field there because we have like 2 other talented teams, but we're obviously better than the Patriots, right? Like, let's just be real here. I'm not trying to, stick my chin up to them, but then past that, we've been like almost splitting with the Bills, and guess what? They have Josh Allen. We have Zach Wilson. Like Aaron, I don't know if we're breaking news here, Dan, but Aaron Rodgers is a lot better than Zach Wilson, and at least in my humble opinion. So I think I think they could sweep the Bills. The Bills haven't been crapping on the Jets, where I'm like so nervous about them. And then past that, Miami's a team who like, hey, they don't beat winning teams. Tua didn't beat a winning team last year. So if the Jets are what they're supposed to be, and they're a good team, why can't they? And that's huge with that last game too. I know the schedule came out, it leaked, and then they were supposed to be traveling here like week 13 early December. Now they're traveling early January to the Jets, and that might be a game for the number one, or not the number 1 seed, but for the division. So I think it's possible. I think at the bare minimum, obviously 6-0 is great. Like, hey, let's do 6-0. I think at the bare minimum, if you're trying to win the AFC East, you have to go 4-2. You have to sweep the Patriots, and you have to, the minimum, split with the Dolphins and the Bills, but I could see them beating the Bills twice and going 5-1 in the division. You know, again, I think if you stack up these rosters, and obviously it's a thing where, hey, we have to prove it because we haven't been there. But tell me where the Dolphins and the Bills are so much better than the Jets. Obviously, you know, Dolphins have receiver over pretty much everybody in the NFL, but like the Jets are more talented, I think, position group by position group than both of those teams. So it's definitely possible, even though maybe I wouldn't bet on it because it's 6 games, you know. So
the reason why I threw that out there is, again, I look at the Pats as a complete sweep. It's not like you said, it's not just pushing out my chest and saying, oh man, you know, we are way better than them. We're light years better than them. They're rebuilding. Okay. Now we're looking at the Bills. The Bills come here at home Monday night. Like you said, normally with Zach Wilson or just the ineptitude that we had at quarterback, we always pulled out a win.
Yeah.
Win that one Monday night. Then again, we go into December. Miami, we have them at home. Then we have to travel all the way to Buffalo. And at that point, a lot of Jet fans might say, you know, we're going all the way up there. But who better would you want in the coldest and extreme time of climates than Aaron Rodgers? It doesn't get any colder than Lambeau. And the stakes are going to be so high for those 2 weeks. And judging by that last game of the season with Miami, it's to be determined what time, and most likely it will be flexed because that's going to be the one for the East. And at that point, I see the Jets going 14-3. And I get it. I'm probably wearing green-colored contacts. I get it. We've been through this road before, right? Like, you know, it's not even June, and you're talking out of your fill in the blank. But this is not. It's not hyperbole, in my opinion. This is what we have been waiting for over 15 years. Enough is enough. This is it. Seize it.
Yeah, no, like, listen, I you know, based on betting odds, I think you're, 14-3. I think the Jets are only right now not favored in 3 games, and that's at Miami, at Buffalo, and the 49ers. So based on the betting odds, you know, it's possible. Now, typically a team loses a game it's not supposed to and wins a game it's not supposed to, but hey, maybe we beat the Niners, but then we have a crap game versus the Colts on Sunday Night Football or whatever it is. But it's possible, undoubtedly. But I think my head right now is like heart saying like 12-5. Head is saying, hey, be careful. You're a Jets fan. 11-6. But I think 11 wins is the minimum you need to win the East. But hey, let's get to 12 or 13 and frickin' and win the conference and be sitting on our asses in the first week of the playoffs, and then we're hosting a divisional playoff game at MetLife Stadium, which I cannot even imagine the atmosphere for that game. But I would be there undoubtedly. So I think 14 wins is it's possible. Again, would I bet it? Maybe not. But in terms of betting odds, you're on point.
Isn't that wild, man? As a Jet fan, we're kind of projecting 11 wins, 12 wins. We can't even get out of our own 6-win, 7-win seasons. No. But this has to be the mindset, because if you think about it, that's why Aaron Rodgers was brought in here, to change the entire culture within this 3-year window. And that kind of segues to the kid that the Jets drafted out of Florida State, and that's Jordan Travis. What are your thoughts? Because to me, it's like they're finally doing things the right way, but they're like bumbling into it because they had no other choice. They have a young kid there coming off of an extreme injury who he's coming along well. If he could sit on the pine for a year or two, do you see a certain scenario where we trot him out 2025, 2026 and say, you know what, our future might be pretty bright?
Yeah, bright. It's to me, he's a little bit limited. I think his ceiling, and it's hard to put like his ceiling on a guy, but I think his ceiling is like more of like an average level quarterback, whether that be like a Tannehill level guy or a Tyrod guy in his prime, which is completely fine. Like, I don't want people to think like, oh, that means he's a crap pick. Like, no, if you draft a good backup quarterback, which we haven't had for 20 years, if you have a good backup quarterback, that's a hit in the 5th round. So I'm not saying that's what he definitely is going to be, but I see him being more of like ceiling of an average guy. guy. He definitely needs to sit, undoubtedly needs to sit. His mechanics are pretty brutally bad at times. And then his processing, his like pre to post snap is rough. He'll bounce between reads, he'll force balls. His anticipation's super spotty. So he has a long way to go. And there's times where like a play will be blown up and he gets a little bit of pressure in his face and he'll just chuck a ball up into pressure because he doesn't want to get hit. So he definitely has a long way to go. But then you have a guy who, okay, like he has an average level arm, if not a little bit below average. So his arm's not great. But then, hey, can you make up, for that average to below average arm with really good, athleticism in terms of acceleration and speed and a little bit of grit running the ball. So I think he's a guy who you have to be pretty creative with to make him like an average-ish level quarterback. But like Tannehill was kind of a average level-ish quarterback who you could be a little bit creative with like read options and stuff. And at the end of the day, if like he ends up being that, obviously slam dunk of a pick. But I see 2025 and 2026. Well, maybe let's say 2026 because I'm hoping Rodgers is here next year. We'll see how this year goes. You never know. But I'm seeing 2026 with all these contracts coming up with like Brees and Garrett and JJ and Sauce being. I'm not going to say like a bad year. It's not going to be a tank it year, but it might be a transition year where you get, let's say 7, 8, 9 wins. Then you kind of figure your stuff out. You get rid of the dead cap. You evaluate Jordan Travis for a year. Maybe you bring in another veteran quarterback. Let's say Gardner Minshew, 2026 version. He competes with Jordan Travis. You have kind of a mediocre year. You rebound it and you get after it next year. Because I do think they're going to have to meet their maker a little bit in terms of how they're spreading out the cap a little bit right now. But yeah, I see it being a possibility. But like you said, in general, like that's my evaluation of the player. But I like the fact that like it's just crazy that Jets, us in the past, we drafted a guy in the 4th or the 5th round, Bryce Petty, and it's like, okay, well, when is he starting? Like he's he's got to be ready, and so now this is our 3rd guy, and our 2nd guy is the best quarterback we've had since Brett Favre, like legitimate, obviously minus Aaron Rodgers. Like I'm taking Tyrod in 2015, even over Fitzpatrick. Like Tyrod's our best quarterback we've had in almost 20 years. Like it's wild that now he's our backup. And then obviously Rodgers being the starter. So I think it's a great situation for Travis. Like, and on top of like having questions about his game, whatever, but like you see that one of the main reasons he's drafted is because like all these guys are saying how elite of a teammate he is, and that matters in NFL locker rooms. I think people don't like evaluate that enough in like terms of like how much that matters for some teams. But elite locker room guy, learning from Tyrod, who seems like a good vet to learn behind. Aaron Rodgers seems like he's awful team. We hear about Aaron Rodgers, awful teammate. Guy is such a a D word. I'm not sure if I can curse, but he's inviting Malachi Corley to stay in his guest house. But it's such a bad guy. It's crazy. Just because he like disagrees with people's opinions, their feelings are hurt. But you know what that is. So
horrendous job that he did with Jordan Love. Horrible job.
Yeah, terrible job.
Horrendous.
So I think he's in a great situation to learn. He seems like an elite like locker room guy. I think his athleticism, like his lower body athleticism, plus his average level arm, kind of make him like an average-ish level quarterback, like as his ceiling. But I think that's fine. Like I don't think he's gonna be Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. But develop him and give him a shot in 2026, and him battle of him versus Minshew in the transition year for the Jets in 2026.
Shoot, why not? I'll take it. Now, before we go on to callers, I just wanted to kind of chop it up with Breece Hall's stats. He has not had an offensive line this good. Yeah. What do you see? I'm looking at 1,200 yards.
Yeah. And the only thing that really like pissed me off too last year, and like this is part of my problem with Saleh and like some of their decision making. Like, was it really necessary in a meaningless Week 18 game to give Breece Hall 36 carries? Like, dude, like it would be. And one, the fact that he even miscounted is just like such a joke. Like it's a $1 billion franchise and they can't count. But then past that, like. And I get like, hey, I'm old man yelling at cloud right now, but you have to like, I'm more about the process than the result. I think the process is very important because you can get a random result. You can, hey, process versus result right here. You could throw a ball to a defender's chest and then that ball happens to bounce off into Garrett Wilson's hands and he runs for a touchdown. The process was bad. The result was great. So I'm all about the process. And the process last year was like, imagine if he got hurt on play 35, how pissed we would have been that they ran him out there for no reason and then miscounted. So, but in terms of Breece, I would have obviously liked to see him have 1,000. He was like 6 or 4 yards short, whatever it was. But yeah, 1,200 yards, I think it's an easy bet, man. Like the amount of times they're stacking the box versus him, 7-8 guys in that box. You're anticipating him getting at least 80% of the carries this year. Now another year removed off the ACL injury. I could see him getting 12, 13, 1,400 yards. I think they're really going to run the offense through him. And, it's a little bit like sad with some running backs because typically running backs are recycled. You have them for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, you get rid of them. So when you have a guy in year 3 in his prime, the Jets would be stupid to not kind of run him into the ground a little bit. So I think he's going to see plenty of carries and I would say 12, 1,300 yards. And that's not even talking about receiving.
The biggest wild card to me is Will McDonald. Like now, yes, we signed Hassan Reddick. This is awesome. Again, it's all about the sacks, right? That's where I kind of give the edge to Salah's defense more than Rex's. Rex was more strategic than anything else. This year, it's all about, dude, we have superstars, man, going after the quarterback. We're headhunters. This is like freaking Sack Exchange 2.0 for the youngins, for us. But what do you see? Do you see something where, okay, you know what? He's going to be in the spotlight. 5 sacks, 8 sacks, more, less? What do you see?
Yeah, I think 5 to 8 sacks is like a good range for him. I think if he's in that range, it's a successful year. Like how many snaps does he get? Probably 25 to 30%, something like that, maybe 35. But obviously he was a surprising pick, but once I watched him, I was like, okay, I get it. Like he's very bendy, very quick. Right. Last year, I'll have a review coming out of him later in the year. Last year in limited reps, he was impressive. As just a pure rusher, like him versus JJ. JJ is obviously more well-rounded of a player, but just pure pass rushing in year 1 of each guy. Will McDonald impressed me a lot more than JJ just as a pass rusher in his first year. So I think he has a really, really high ceiling as a player. But I think this year, again, 25 to 35% of the reps, most likely he'll probably see between 5 and 8 sacks. So I have some faith in him. And like you said, I agree. I think this defense is better, like talent wise, because we legitimately have all pro ball level players at every single level of the defense, if not multiple at each. You have 3 Pro Bowl, all pro level corners. You got multiple defensive linemen. Your 2 linebackers. There's only maybe a duo or 2 in the NFL that can compete with the Jets linebacker duo. So the defense is absolutely stacked. Again, the only question I have, and the only flub of the offseason and kind of how Joe Douglas has handled the defensive line a little bit. Again, losing Bryce for nothing, losing JFM for basically nothing. And then in my opinion, and again, I'll say this slowly, because people will attack me for this because like, oh, you don't know that Kinlaw is not going to be better than Quentin Jefferson. Okay, I don't know that. I don't know it. I can't guarantee it. Right. What I could personally tell you is at the time of watching Kinlaw's tape before he got here and then watching Quentin Jefferson's tape before he got here, I was much higher on Quentin Jefferson than Kinlaw, and I was much higher on Al Woods than Fotu. So I think they'll downgrade a little bit there, but I also think it's going to be less emphasized because teams aren't going to be able to run the ball as much on the Jets because you're going to have to pass to stay in the game because Rodgers going to be putting points in their head. So so I think they can offset it. Again, I wish they handled a little bit differently, like losing JFM for a 6th round pick.
That sucked, man.
The fact that and I get it. It's a little bit Monday morning quarterbacking. And I understand that, okay, they couldn't have seen Reddick coming. So that's why they had to transition to getting rid of JFM. But JFM is making $7.5 million this year. And Kinlaw is making about 7. And the
no-brainer.
The jump from Kinlaw to JFM, I'm sorry, they're not in the same stratosphere.
Completely.
So I love a lot of what they've done. That's the only spot I'm a little bit concerned about and it's not like a lot of teams I don't think are going to be able to take advantage of it. The Niners, the Colts with Jonathan Taylor, I could see taking advantage of it a little bit. They're a good running team. So some of the good running teams, I'll be a little bit concerned with. Let's say we hit the Ravens in the playoffs. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, a little bit concerned. So I'm interested to see exactly what they do there. But overall, I think this is a better defense than what they had in 2009 and 2010.
I absolutely love it, man. You're bringing the fire right now to the show. And again, we thank you for everyone that is watching right now. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. So, Joe, I have a question for you. Would you like to do a rapid fire right now? We bring on guests. They'll ask some questions and we move forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. So we are going to go to Charles. He has been waiting forever. Charles, what's up, man? Oh, I'm sorry.
How you guys doing?
Great. What's going on?
Doing well, Charles.
So, look, I'm really hyped for this upcoming season. I really, really am. I really like the schedule personally. I know the primetime games may be a bit of a cluster, you know what, but hey, it
Mhm.
is what it is. Um, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but do you see the Jets possibly breaking their sack record? Like, what I mean is, in 1981, they recorded a franchise record 66 sacks, which at the time I believe was an NFL record. Now, of course, the NFL records the 1984 Bears with 72 sacks, which is ridiculous, and the Eagles came close to breaking that a couple of years ago. Do you think I'm not saying they should break the record, but do you think with the talent we have in terms of the pass rushers, have the capability of breaking our franchise sack record?
Charles, wow, that is a big question. I'm gonna refer it back to you, Joe, on this one.
Yeah.
Charles, thank you so much, man.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's a
say too
big one.
before he came on, Dan. You're like, oh, would you like to bring on callers? What if I was like, no, I don't. No, like you're not allowed to. But
I just want to make sure it's cool. That's
yeah,
all.
no, don't bring him on, Dan. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to anybody, just you. So yeah, so I looked it up while he was talking. So the leader in 2023 was the Ravens with 60. So do I think it's possible? Yeah, I do, because obviously, again, there has to be a coordination between a few things that lead to that. The offense scoring points, right? We talked about that. The offense is going to score points this year, and then on top of that, do you have a good secondary to hold, make the quarterback throw the ball? Do we have a good secondary? I think we do. I think we're the best trio in the NFL of corners. I think the safeties are upgraded from last year.
Even Eccles, right? Even Eccles.
Yeah,
The bonehead thing that he did, with the car, which is freaking ridiculous. But again, you throw him in there, part of the mix, man. It's great.
Yeah, and then you have Tony Adams from. I know he, technically it was his year 2, but it's really his year 1 last year, like fully starting. So he's going to be better. Chuck Clark is better than Whitehead in my opinion, pretty easily, just because he's going to be in the right spot at the right time. And then we talked about it before, like Quandre Diggs or whatever. If they to me, that's one of the final pieces on the defense. Like, hey, the safety market right now is super buyer friendly, because there's a lot of safeties going for pretty cheap money. Like, could you get a Quandre Diggs in here for $4 million? Like, he's still a good safety, at least the last time I've watched him. So if you can add that to this room, like, watch out. So that's something I'm watching out for. Obviously the big fish is like Simmons, but even if it's like Eddie Jackson, Quandre Diggs, just somebody, to add to that room. So I would love that. But do they have the capability? Yeah. Like, could they be the number 1 sack team in the NFL this year? Undoubtedly, I think they can, because they have all the things coordinated together. The Ravens had 60 last year. So could they get 66? I think so. Again, would I bet on them breaking their all-time sack record? No, but definitely, like, surely possible. I don't think there's any way you could say that, no, it's not possible that they have 66 sacks, because again, the Ravens had 60 last year. Why not another 6? Like, we have better corners than the Ravens. I think we have better edge rushers than the Ravens. The Ravens don't have Quinn Williams, so as long as we score points, we're going to get sacks. It's all about the points, though.
That's the big one, man. I mean, you alluded to it before. This is one of those where if we can get on teams 17-3 or whatnot, they're not going to be running the ball. They're not. They're going to be the option plays and this and that. Nah, it's out the window. They need to keep up with the Jets' firepower. Again, given that the offensive line, everything is stout there. And again, not to be negative, but you kind of see that there might be some injuries here and there. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be fully healthy the entire season? I see him not playing maybe 2 games. That's fine. This is the reason why you have a legitimate backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Or am I missing something?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it's like it. And like, legitimately last year, I don't want to look back into the past. If we have Tyrod Taylor as our starting quarterback last year, we're at least a 10-win team, right? Like, and that's not hyperbole. Like, we beat the Falcons, we beat the Raiders, we beat the Pats the first time. Like, no question in my mind, we're a 10-win team last year. So could with this team, could Tyrod Taylor beat the Colts or the Rams with, I think so. So yeah, I think it's really important that they have him. The only thing that works against Charles's question is the fact that I do think the Jets will be more ball control this year. I don't think they'll be airing it out, high flying offense. I think it's going to be a lot of now obviously there's going to be some 2-play drives because Aaron Rodgers is a savage and we got some good playmakers, like Breece Hall breaks a 60-yard run every other week. But I think it's going to be a thing where it's more like sustained 6, 7, 8, 9 minute drives, just drive it down your throat, be really efficient, keep the defense nice and rested on the sidelines. And when they come onto the field, it's all go, So that's the only thing that works against it a little bit. But I think it's a possibility for sure.
I completely agree with that, man. It's there. Can we break it? Possibly. But I just want the Jets defense to be feared throughout the entire season. Like, shit, we have to like be careful with JJ. We got to be careful with all these huge high echelon kind of players. Like, I want that fear constant, and I don't want to be a top 5. I want to be a top 2 defense, and they should get to that point because, again, they're finally going to be well rested. Drive in, drive out, and whatnot. They're not going to be, oh, shoot, we got to go back out there again. We have to bail out the team week in, week out. They're going to be to a certain point where they have never tested these waters for the past 3 to 4 years since Saleh has been here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just the fact that they've maintained a top 5 defense with their quarterbacks the last 2 years is impressive. And like you think back to 2009 and 2010, like I'm not, Mark Sanchez as an Aaron Rodgers. I know people kind of fight about exactly what he was for the Jets, but he's definitely not Aaron Rodgers, and he was supported by the number 1, ground game, number 1 defense, and all of that stuff. So, I think this defense has an opportunity to thrive like I've legitimately never seen. Like if you just look at the Jets roster compared to other rosters, man, like are there really 5 teams better than the Jets? Like just 1 for 1 right now. And now head coaching, all that stuff, but like Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, good tight ends, a studly offensive line, if not injured. But like, even the offensive line, like, we have some injuries. Again, I'm knocking on wood here because I don't like saying this stuff. Morgan Moses has been pretty healthy and pretty good. Tyron Smith, he's been relatively healthy. He's not David Bakhtiari. He misses 3 or 4 games a year, but still, I'll take 13, 14 games of Tyron Smith during the regular season and have him healthy for the playoffs like he's always been. So like the offense, like the offensive line is good. The freaking defensive line is good. The linebackers are studly. Your safeties are at least okay. And then you got a freaking Hall of Fame, trio of corners right now. So like, like you said before, like why not this year? And that's what I felt last year. Now with last year, I was going into it a little bit more cautious because, and I was pissed at Douglas like last year, even before the season. The fact that you went into the season with Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton as your starting tackles with Aaron Rodgers was an absolute joke how they handled that offseason. It just is what it is. It was a travesty. It was exactly like they saw the crap storm of 2022 and said, okay, that offensive line was injured and terrible. What we're going to do is throw a 4th round injured Carter Warren to the mix, and hopefully that will fix it. It's like, what are we doing here? So now they transitioned. Obviously, they killed it with the offensive line this year. But so like I said, last year I was a little bit more hesitant, but still, even that year, I was like, okay, why not us? At least give me conference championship or divisional game. Give me the playoffs. And then I was pumping myself up. Obviously, what happened in game 1 like broke my freaking heart, but again, like, why not us? Like at a certain point, it needs to break. It broke for the Red Sox. It broke for the Cubs. It's breaking for the Lions. They made the playoffs. Like this is the year they need to get there. They need to win a division and chase that number 1 seed. And again, we're sitting pretty on a wild card weekend waiting for our divisional game.
I can't wait, man. Oh wow, you have us as the number 1 seed.
Hey,
I love it.
Why not this year?
Freaking A, man. That's exactly what we need here. We need more positivity, and that's where it is. It has to reverberate throughout the entire nation of Jet fans. You have to have that kind of mindset. This is the all-in year mantra. We have an Aaron Rodgers Hall of Famer that is completely vested, all invested into this year. We don't know about 2025. We have no idea. But what we do know is that it's going to be a revenge tour if you think about it, right? First off the gate, the Niners, a team that passed on him. I know it's not the same coach as the GM, whatever, but it still stings there. It's still Aaron Rodgers, man. He holds things back and in pretty bad. And he wants to go out there and prove to the rest of the NFL that we are not the same old Jets.
Yeah, and again, he's just an elite competitor, and I'm not necessarily comparing him like one for one with Jordan or Kobe or any of these guys, but like those guys, they almost make up storylines in their head and then try to dominate the other teams. Tom Brady, like and this is almost unfortunate for Jets fans. Like he showed some of his personality, and he actually seems like a decent dude. But like he said it, I forget what podcast he was on, but he was like, yeah, like I made up reasons to hate people. Like I hated people on the football field. And Aaron Rodgers, like he's sitting there, like you don't think he sees the meme of him running out with the flag and like all this stuff all the time. Like I guarantee you he wants to come back and put up another MVP season and shove it down everybody's throats. So whether it be the Niners, the Pats, the Indy, he wants to dominate everybody. And that's the Aaron Rodgers you want, because when he's pissed off, he's pretty damn good. And it's not a thing where like he needs to even be an MVP. Like people crap on him for the year that he had it with a broken thumb, with Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, rookie receivers, and an offensive line that was not great, like, and a defense that's solid, whatever, but like it's much different situation. He threw, I don't know what it was, like 28 touchdowns and like 8 picks. Like I'll take that, if we get that this year, like we're an 11-win team. And not even to mention, if we get Aaron Rodgers, who's throwing 40 touchdowns and 6 picks, like he's truly back like MVP form level Rodgers, and I don't see a reason he cannot do that, because Brady did it when he was 40. Like he was still a really good quarterback. Exactly. I'm not betting on it, but like I'm saying it could happen. Like again, why not us? Now, if I had to bet, Chiefs maybe, but if you actually look at their schedule, it's actually pretty tough. I think if you finish with 12, 13 wins, that's the goal, be the 1 seed. But I'm expecting really at the minimum, like win 11 games with the schedule, even 10 wins. Like we could have got 10 wins last year. Like screw 10 wins. Give me 11 at the minimum, bare minimum for me to be happy this year.
That's the thing. Like I'm looking at the Jets, and they're finally following the blueprint of the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady with Tampa Bay. And I feel like they're going to find a happy medium there. Like with Peyton Manning, how he won his Super Bowl with Denver, it was very heavily predicated on a defense that was top 3 and a run game. It wasn't like his first year there where what did he throw for, like 55, 58 touchdowns, something crazy like that. But then move forward to Tom Brady's first year at Tampa Bay. Dude, he lit it up. That's why, like his last year at New England, it seemed like, you know what? The wheels came off. It's not the same old Brady. It was kind of like parallel to Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay. He knew that that era was going to completely come to an end, but that fire has become rekindled. And that's the beauty of this whole entire thing this year.
Well, and it's another good like parallel in terms of like who was Brady throwing to that year? Who was his offensive line? Who was Rodgers throwing to that year? Again, Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson and Alan Lazard. And like, that's what we expect him to have an MVP season with a broken thumb. It's like unrealistic expectations. And I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be, again, number 1, number 2, number 3 in the league, but top 10 Aaron Rodgers, which I think is a pretty attainable goal considering what's surrounded him. Like he doesn't have to force the ball. He's a smart quarterback. Like he'll rely on the run game. And in terms of like the defense too, like it's a benefit to him obviously too, where like he doesn't have to force that ball on 3rd down, live to fight another down, punt the ball, put in our defense's hands. So like, I think Rodgers is going to be easily a top 10 guy this year. And if we get that with relative health and the rest of the team, that's watch out for the Jets, because they got some talent on this team for sure.
I'm with it. Now we're going to go to a next caller here. Jose, one of our favorite ones. Jose, thank you so much for waiting patiently, man. You are the man, dude.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I hate to be negative, but then, you know me, always crazy, excuse me. But if the chips start out slow, knock on the wood, that doesn't happen. But
better not happen.
But if they start out slow out of the gate, who first to go? Salah or Hackett?
Salah. In my opinion, it would be Salah, 100%. Jose, thank you so much, man, for coming on. We love you, brother.
Yeah.
Let's go, Jets, baby.
I'm going to need you to come on my channel sometime.
Hell yeah, baby. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Love you, man. Later.
Love you too.
That is a
Excuse
great
me.
question because, I contemplated that before and I was called negative. Don't think like that. That's not good. Woody Johnson has never jettisoned a head coach before, ever. All right. How I look at it is an all-in year, we start, God forbid. Damn, man. Like, what? Sorry, Liam. Like, every time you come on, we have to talk about, like, the negativity. We start 1-4. He's gone. What's up, Liam? Welcome aboard, brother. Tell me that the Rangers won.
Yes, they did.
All right. The Knicks turn tomorrow, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Love it.
Joe, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. In terms of like, I don't know. I can't even get myself into that mindset. Like, is there really a world like even with Tyrod, like what has to happen for them to go 1-4? So like if that were to happen, yeah, I don't get rid of everybody at that point. I don't see that even being a possibility. I think like a bad start to the season is like 3-2. Look at their teams. Like the Titans, I guess they could be okay, but again, it's Will Levis. Like the Patriots, the Broncos, the Vikings, like 1-4. Are we sure? Like that would be one of the biggest like upsets coming into a year I could ever remember. So at that point, give it everybody. Like it's not going to happen though. I think that's less than a 1% chance of happening.
Can't happen. It won't happen. No way. The only way, again, I'm not even going to speak it into existence. You kind of know where and how that can happen. Not going to go there. It happened last year. No way. Not even going to talk about it.
Oh.
In my opinion, we had the schedule release show yesterday, and I see the Jets going 6-0 the first 6 games. Oh no, I'm sorry, 5-1. It's very mind-boggling. The only game that I see the Jets losing, because it's the Jets, is the Viking game. The first 6 games of the season.
Is it possible? Like, yeah, they could lose to the Vikings. But I think it's a possibility they go 6-0. Like again, they could beat the Niners and then past that, show me a team that they're not better than. The
Right.
Bills. Like I think everybody in terms of like talking about the division, it's like a home and home split with the Bills. You're anticipating week 6, them coming to MetLife. I believe it's a Monday Night Football game, right?
Yeah.
They should
Yes.
beat that team. Like I think we're a better team than the Bills. Like who are their receivers? Who's getting open on sauce this year? Is Keon Coleman getting open on sauce? I don't think so. Like their defense, they've lost some guys. They lost Hyde. They lost Trey White. They lost Tremaine Edmonds last year. So I think 5-1's a possibility. I think 3-2 is the worst you could do in those first 5.
Completely agree. What are your thoughts, Liam?
Yeah. I mean, I sure hope so. I mean, if we're 5-3, I mean, that's still really great. But I think that I'm looking at a loss to San Francisco, and then I think we go on a little run. So I'm looking at like 4-1, really.
Mm-hmm.
This is my personal opinion. I don't have the schedule in front of me right now, but whatever that equals out to be. But I do think that the Steelers are actually going to give us a little bit of a run for our money. And then apparently I've been discounting the Rams later on in the season. I didn't really realize like how much talent that they actually have. They kind of been like low key lately, it seems like, like this whole off season. So I mean that could be a good game. So, but there's not a single opponent on this schedule that I go in and say the Jets have no chance. I mean, you have some hard opponents, but if you want to be a good team, you got to beat good teams. That's the way I look at it.
I see it the other way
Why not?
around. I see teams looking at their schedule and seeing a healthy Jets roster and saying, "Shit, we got to go into that atmosphere, or they're coming to us." That's what I see, and I get it. It's the fandom in me, right? But no, not really. In a year where all chips are in at the center of the table, teams should start fearing us. I mean, I know for a fact the Bills are. I mean, they have their poster child, Dion Dawkins, spitting stupid stuff all over. That's who we're fearing.
Mm-hmm.
Double D guy. Sorry,
Double D.
no way. Not my kind of guy. Sorry,
Not my type of double Ds.
It's fun. It's funny that he talks about like the Jets wanting clout and all this stuff while also having like 4,000 posts on his Instagram, going on podcasts shirtless with gold chains. But the Jets are the guys who are begging for attention. It's a little bit odd.
I want Clemens to clean his clock this year. I want to Like I'm not a fan of like injuring players or anything like that, but like I want him to feel it the next day. You know?
I think he will, man. He's an assassin, dude. He wears orange on his days off. That's what I love about him. You know what I mean? We have one more guest here we're gonna bring on. Let me see.
Yeah, I was gonna say my tablet's dying, so however long my tablet is however long you'll get of me. But had to pop on. I mean, I met Joe officially last week when I hopped on his show real quick, so it was only right that I came on to say hello. I just got home not too long ago, so busy day.
Liam is a freaking workaholic, man. You don't stop, dude.
No, I don't.
Without further ado, we bring on Raven. Raven is dude, it's about time. It's about time you hop on here.
I've had things to do each Thursday. I mean, I'm a huge basketball fan and like I love the Knicks, so my entire life has basically been planned around the NBA playoffs. So I apologize.
It's on tomorrow. Tomorrow we have to close it out. I
am so excited. Like I took a look at those guys after game 5 and they're seeing red. They got daggers in their eyes. But I will say if, let's say third-ish quarter, it just looks like it's just not happening. Like it just isn't. I say you rest their starters so they can like be ruthless for game 7. You know what I mean?
Man, it should not get to that point. The reason why I don't think it's going to get to that point because that game 3 was ours. It was 100%. They threw up a prayer. I forgot that dude's name. But again, game 4 was an anomaly. Again, 2 nights ago, that was the real Knicks, especially that dunk that DiVincenzo made. I mean, that was it.
No,
sorry, man. I had to throw that in there. I mean, it can't be all Rangers.
No, I completely agree with that. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, it probably is, and I completely agree with you. Look, I always say with basketball, if you're within, like, if you lose by, let's say, like, 2 to 5 points, that just means the team got to make an extra play or two. Because if you think about it, 5 points, let's say there's like 30-ish seconds, get a couple stops. That's shooting a 3, then 2 free throws. 2 points, that's quite literally like an extra shot or an extra chance to make 2 free throws. That's what I always say. And I think that's like pretty much I think that's quite literally what happened in that game 3 because the guy hadn't made a shot all evening and all of a sudden he makes the shot. That is literally losing by 1 play.
The beauty about this whole thing tying it in together is being a New York fan, right? A Ranger fan, again, a Knicks fan, you see that this town is just turning it up. It's so lit. You see the fans just pouring it out. I'm watching the Knicks, and again, I'm yelling off the top of my lungs, and I'm like, wow, man, that passion is there. It's the Jets' turn. It's the Jets' turn because, in my opinion, we had this poll about maybe, 2 weeks ago or so, right, Liam? We said if out of the 3 teams, what would be the biggest parade of them all? Would it be the Jets, the Knicks, or the Rangers? I think the Rangers would come into third because they're the most recent one, right? 94. They waited over 50 plus years.
Even that still sounds crazy.
Even
the most recent one's 94.
But ours is, the Jets is 68, and the Knicks is 72 or something like that.
I think it's 69. Not even trying to be funny.
Something like that. Perv. So what do you think? Would it be the Jets or the Knicks as top?
See, I kind of think the Knicks because I think New York is a bit more of a basketball town than a football town. But since it's been so long since the Jets have done literally anything significant, like it wouldn't be by much. But at the end of the day, New York City is, everyone calls it the Mecca for basketball for a reason.
I say we figure out this year. That's what we try to do.
How about that? How about let's figure that out. And I was gonna say, I live in this city and I live like like super downtown, as like downtown as you could possibly get. I swear to God, I watched the games and I could fucking hear the garden from outside my window. Like that's how insane New York City is right now. I see everybody's in like either like a Rangers t-shirt or like a Knicks t-shirt. It like it's as crazy as you see it in like in all the TikToks, honestly. But, like,
you know what's the best thing about this too is like this has been the best vibes that New York sports has had in over a decade.
Yes.
I mean, you got the Rangers doing big things. They had a watch party tonight at the Garden. That place was rocking. Especially Kreider had his had a hat trick tonight. You got the Knicks going to the Garden. Yeah, you got the Knicks going to the Garden tonight. Tomorrow night. You got the Jets doing big things. You got the Giants revealing the ugliest uniforms of all time. So everything. Anything besides that, it's like New York is rocking right now, and it's like this is the year that I want to win. Like obviously, like I want my Rangers to go all the way. I want the Knicks to go all the way. Even though I'm not a huge basketball fan, I certainly want my Jets to go all the way. Like this could be such an incredible year for New York sports.
You bring up the Giants. How crazy is it that they got Hard Knocks, and like not just like Hard Knocks the way we traditionally think about it, like from basically the minute the offseason started throughout the entire season, I believe. Like of all the teams, I can't believe they went with like the Giants. You know, I think a better team maybe would have been like even like the Colts. You know, obviously Anthony Richardson got like the short end of the stick with his injury, but that here you had Gardner Minshew literally within a game. I'm still laughing. I can't. Thank you for interrupting.
What is that?
Like,
when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. I had no idea Daniel Jones plays for the U.S. national team soccer team.
I was just thinking soccer.
That is the most hideous. Like I thought that we had it like from 2019 to 2020, was it 3? Like those were nasty. They were horrendous jerseys that we had, and the helmet, the whole thing. This takes the cake, and I don't think their socks go all the way up to their knees. That's the best.
With those tan pants, those piss stained pants.
Totally.
But Raven, you make a really good point. It's like when I saw that they're doing the off-season Hard Knocks with the Giants, I the first thing I said was, who the hell wants to watch that? Like, there's no characters on the New York Giants. Like, I get, like, not even being, like, a biased Jet fan, I guess I get that, like, why they were on Hard Knocks last year. You got Aaron Rodgers, Garrett, Sauce. We had way too much Tenzel Smart for my liking, but it is what it is. I mean, I have nothing against Tenzel Smart. I just don't know why he was featured. But, yeah, there's so many other teams that are just as deserving. I mean, even the Chicago Bears. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Or just being downright compelling and having a compelling story. Like I said, you know, maybe, you know, the Colts could have been a great storyline. That's kind of what I was thinking. Who else has like a really compelling like
Raiders
line? Who the honestly, that in my opinion, that would have been the perfect choice. Truthfully, you know,
get to know Pierce a little bit.
You said the Chargers, right?
No, but I said the Raiders, but the Chargers are actually another good one too.
No, the Raiders could definitely a little bit more compelling. Sorry, I have an ear infection, guys, so I'm like down in ear. I can't.
No, that's what this podcast does to people anyway. So don't worry about that.
We're a live ear infection.
Before we let you go,
now I'm gonna be deaf.
Yes.
Now before we let you go, do you think, Raven, this is Daniel Jones' Tinder profile? Like, I totally think that
it has to be.
It has to be. It has to be. Raven, have a great night. Thank you for coming on.
Have a good one, guys.
Be safe. So, getting back to the Jets, what do you think? Super Bowl or no? Joe?
I kind of want to transition to like the Super Bowl. No, the Super Bowl thing in terms of like the Knicks and then the Jets. I think the Knicks have the bigger like Super Bowl or like parade, just because we know that in terms of New York, like it's Knicks, right? Unfortunately, I'm a Nets fan, like an ass. But realistically, Nets are probably 5-10% of New York. whereas the other 90% is the Knicks, and then the Jets, Giants. Let's be gracious to ourselves and say it's 50-50, even though it's probably like 60-40, maybe 55-45. We're louder than them. We're better fans than them. They might have a little bit more fans, but New York is a basketball town, but there's only it's because of like the fact that the Knicks are really the only team going, where the Jets are competing with the Giants for like that top fandom. So I think the Knicks would definitely be a bigger deal if they won. But Jets fans would be the craziest in terms of like per capita. There'd be cars getting flipped over and stuff for sure. People eating horse crap like there was in Philly. Like there's going to be some problems.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think it would be more national than anything else, and that's where we would have the edge over Knicks fans. They would all congregate at I don't know where they would have it, at Broadway or whatever the case is, And speaking of the Nets, I wish the Jets had an owner like Prokhorov. At what point were you a Jersey Nets fan before they moved to Brooklyn?
Yeah. Kidd and Kerry Kittles and Kenyon Martin and all those guys. Yeah.
When Prokhorov bought the Nets, dude, the first thing that he did, said, I'm taking them out of Jersey. No knock on Jersey. It is what it is. But he saw that the market was bigger. And that's why whenever I hear that, the Jets aren't going to be moving back to New York, there's no room. That, to me, blows my mind. Like, I get the logistics and monetary, but when you start throwing out there that there's no room, you must be out your mind. Dude, look at the Islanders. They built a freaking arena right next to a horse track.
Not only that, not to cut you off, there are so many apartment complexes going up. I'm working in Hempstead doing one right now, a Section 8 apartment complex. It's like, let's knock that shithole down and let's put the Jets there. Seriously, like there's just so many, like I keep saying, knock down the Coliseum, knock down some surrounding buildings. You got to keep the Marriott. You could find, it would be a little small. It's not going to be 48,000 going crazy. But if we could have 25,000, like I'm cool with that, because it's just going to be 25,000 crazy Jet fans there. That's what, if the stadium has to be a little bit smaller, I'm still okay with that.
The opportunity is there though, Liam. Over there, NYFC is building their own stadium, Abu Dhabi money. They're at 25,000, but if they couple in with Woody Johnson coming in there, it can be a very much 55 to 65,000 stadium. 100%. It can happen. That's why, again, Carton was on the show and he said at the end of the year, this year, there is a possibility. Woody is a money ball guy, man. He is all about the funds and knowing what kind of deals to like call up Saudi Arabia, this and that. If they come into the NFL, football changes at that point because it's already changing. You have football in England, football in Brazil, in Mexico. Roger Goodell is knocking this out of the park. If you think about it from a monetary standpoint, he's revolutionizing the entire NFL. What other sport has this globally? The World Cup. The World Cup every 4 years, you see people coming out of caves with just fandom. That's what Goodell wants. He wants to bring it to a worldwide level. And I think he will. I think in the next 10 to 15 years, we're not even going to recognize the NFL. Just my 2 cents.
I have a question about that. It's like, if Woody was moving into that stadium, like, shouldn't he be like funding it already? Or like, shouldn't we be having like our own stadium built by now? Like, we get out in 2026. It's like, we're not going to go a full season with no home game. I just feel like something would be like in the works already. I don't, as much as I would love it, I don't see us moving out of MetLife.
Joe, what do you think?
I'm super biased here because I'm from the middle of New Jersey. So if they move to New York, I can't pull it off in terms of going to more games. Would I like to see the Jets have their own deal? Yeah, for sure. But are they going to get out of the deal with the Maras and MetLife? I don't know. I think it's like wholly possible. Like, it's definitely possible. It would definitely be better than 25 because I think Mets or the Jets right now is like 83, 84. Yeah, I think probably the smallest stadium in the NFL. Yep. I think probably the smallest is probably like 45, 50, I would say. Right. So you're looking at like at least 50, 60, 70, I would say minimum. But where exactly? Like, I know there was those train yards they were talking about for a little while. Again, logistically, it'd be a pain in the ass for me, just like it's a pain in the ass for New York people to get to Jersey. But acknowledging that, like, yeah, while it's also a little bit harder for me to get there, do I want the Jets to have some spunk to their stadium? Yeah, like I travel to a stadium or two every year. I've been to like 10 stadiums at this point. I'm planning on going to another 20. I'm hitting Jacksonville probably this year and maybe Pittsburgh. The Jets have the worst, like, at least in my experience from all the stadiums I've been to, they have easily the worst stadium that I've ever been to. In terms of looks, in terms of where it is, like at least Arizona's like it's kind of like there's like bars around it and stuff like that you can hit, but like MetLife's in the middle of the swamps. The ways you get out of the parking lot are terrible. The stadium daytime looks awful. Nighttime it's cool because like they have the at least like the strips, like LED strips that look kind of cool. But it's a pain in the ass to get into. It's a pain in the ass to get out of. It doesn't look good. There's nothing like special to the stadium. So yeah, if they can get out of it, like great. Do I think it's going to happen? If I had to bet, probably not. But that's just more of a feeling than anything based on facts or rooted in facts.
I love it. Listen, man, we're just going to tie
going
everything
into MetLife Stadium. Like it's so like dreary in there. Like it's all gray and dark and depressing. Like there's no life to it. It's just like I don't know. It's like so dark. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very deathly. I can't stand
That's all I got.
It's horrible.
And then now, you place that on top of the fact that we're also have been terrible since we've been in MetLife. Like it is the worst. I've had season tickets. My first year with season tickets was the Tebow year. So I've had season tickets ever since then, and it's just been absolutely dreadful. Greg in the chat says Giant Stadium was better than MetLife. 1,000% better than MetLife. At least Giant Stadium. It wasn't built to retain sound. But MetLife and how open it is, the sound doesn't go to the field. Like Seattle, that stadium, that home field advantage, and excuse my French here, it's such bullshit that they built a stadium with metal bleachers and then a concave roof that reflects the sound back into it, and they claim to be the loudest fans in the NFL. It's like, no, your stadium is built for you to be the loudest fans. Like screw that. So exactly. I would like to see the Jets like have some type of like spark to their stadium, but there is nothing. Again, it looks nice at nighttime. But that's about it. Like 1 o'clock Sunday games, it just looks so terrible. But that's what you have to do when you share the stadium. You have to be neutral colors.
All right, I'm going to blame you for this one. 2012. That means that was your first year. How much worse could it have been? Just throw Tebow out there as a quarterback. What was the bad side? There was no bad side. Just throw him in there. You had to go with Greg McElroy.
Yeah, they shouldn't have signed him from the get-go, though.
Yeah, I get it, but damn, dude, like we were looking for a spark. Put him in. Just put him in.
The Wildcat Master. That's what he was. That's all he was good for.
Punt protector.
He was good for so much more, but
tight end.
But yeah,
he went out for the one pass that hit him in the face. I remember that.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Sanchez couldn't wait for that play to be called. He's like, "I'm gonna hit you right in the face."
Yeah, that was really the beginning of the end for Sanchez.
That was so bad. Well, wait, they tried to. Yeah, they slided him a whole bunch of times, right? They tried to sign Peyton Manning. That didn't go through. Then they gave him that huge contract. Then they gave him Plaxico Burress. Then the following year, they gave him Tebow.
Was Michael Vick around for him too? Or was that after?
No, that was after Gino.
That was Gino, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That was 2014, I believe he came in.
Yep.
Gino's first year was 2013. Sanchez, Snoopy Bowl, 2013. 2014, he leaves, bringing Vic to be the backup, right? That was 2014. And in 2015 was the year he got punched out.
Yeah.
I remember watching that game. Oh, the Snoopy Bowl. That one was the worst. I was flying back from Florida, and I'm watching the game. I'm like, all right, it is what it is. And then I see Sanchez go back, and I'm looking at my wife. My wife is dead asleep. I'm like, I can't bitch to nobody on this one. This guy's gonna get hurt.
It's almost as bad as giving Breece Hall 36 carries in Week 18 against the Pats for no reason.
What's up with these people, man? I don't get it. It is what it is. Anyway, Joe, we want to thank you so much for hopping on, man, and just spitting so much, man. So much just knowledge and your film reviews, man. You go on for fucking hours, man. We love it. I love it. Whenever you drop something new on there, I'm there, man. I got my freaking my book, and I just started writing down, man. Thank you for that, for what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Really, it's just about knowing the game. Again, I like initially I started off talking about football, and people asked me questions about why they lost, why they won, how good is this guy, and how good is that guy, and I didn't really have a good answer because I didn't know what I was watching, and I decided to kind of, for lack of a better term, go balls deep into it, and that's this is where we're at today. So,
I love it. I love it. Listen,
Yes,
again,
sir.
you could definitely catch us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. This Saturday, we do have a special guest early in the morning. So you got to watch live and you'll see exactly who that is. And I believe, 9 o'clock in the morning. So definitely catch us. Special edition morning drive. I'll say it. Peter Schwartz. He's from WFAN. So he's probably going to call us on his drive back to Sunrise Highway. So it should be fun.
Yeah, go balls deep into the afterburners if you guys haven't done so already.
I love it. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you.